Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer, Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Tuesday, the 25th of July. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So a couple themes of the day that we could talk about today. Obviously, there's a lot of names that are reporting earnings. There's some interesting ones, of course, that reported after earnings or after the close today. Google is up nicely. Microsoft is down a little bit, but they have not given out their guidance yet. They always give out their guidance on their earnings call. A couple, one of the things that I want to talk about in today's video is just so far some of the observations that we're getting out of earnings season, what areas of the market that are doing pretty well, and what areas of the markets, because it kind of seems like some names are falling to the downside, and then you also have a lot of names that are moving to the upside. So I will try to tackle that. First things first, I want to go over just a little bit about where the indices are right now. I always kind of start with the bigger picture, and then draw in. By the way, if you have any questions about what I am looking at in my screens in terms of, value areas, I use volume at price. I use something called the MarketWeb's indicator, which is a proprietary indicator. You're going to hear me say virgin point of control, these red lines, right, which is an area of high volume that hasn't been revisited. But why are these things important? Because we come up with really significant levels of interest based on volume at price, right? Where a lot of buyers and sellers have met up. So it gives us really good support resistance levels. And it also gives us a good sense of where there's overhead supply. If you have any questions about MarketWebs and using volume at price, I would direct you towards my pinned tweet in Twitter or X or whatever this thing is called these days. And if you click on here, you'll get all the definitions of everything that I go over in these videos. So brings me to the point we're coming back to this virgin point of control where we previously took this out when the indices got overbought and trying to get back above it. Also note when I go to the 1 hour chart, which gives us the value area for the week, right? Which again is that value area is based on all of last week's activity, all of the volume at price. So this 46, right on a dime, this 4,600 level is a very easy level to watch. Let's see if we can get above that for tomorrow. Don't forget, we have a Fed meeting tomorrow, in addition to all the earnings reports, right? What is being priced into this? And again, this is not supposed to be an argument because I posted this earlier this week, and I said, that 25 basis points is being priced into this market. Why do I know that? Why would I say something like that? Because there is something called US Fed Fund Futures, which will tell you what the market is pricing in for interest rate hikes or interest rate cuts. And right now, Fed Fund Futures are pricing in. There's showing a 97% chance that the Fed raises rates tomorrow. So again, this is just what the market is showing us, right? That's what the market is telling us that is being priced into the market. Now, I don't want to go into indirect implications because everybody, when I tweeted this out earlier in the week, everybody came up with all these indirect things. Oh, the interest rates are not fully priced, not priced into every, area of the market. I agree that, there is a lagging effect, but in terms of what the Fed is going to do tomorrow, it's basically being priced in that 25 basis points is going to happen. So that doesn't mean that there's going to be a shock based on that. What is really the concern is what they're going to do after that, right? And you could see, like right now, there's only an 18% chance that they raise interest rates another 25 basis points after tomorrow. So there's a low probability that they're going to do more, but there is some probability. So this may jump around based on what Powell says tomorrow. Don't forget, the announcement comes at 2 o'clock. The press conference comes at 2:30. The press conference usually not, it's not, nothing's 100%, but the majority of the time, the press conference is what's most important because you're going to hear Powell give his testimony or give his statement, and then he's going to take Q&A. And usually somebody does ask a good question and he does give an in-depth answer that may not have come out, details that may not have been out there in the in the statement that was originally given. All right. So, and then he usually speaks for about 45 to 50 minutes. He's usually done around 320 to 325, plus or minus a few minutes, depending on how the Q&A goes, so that you have like about a half an hour before the market closes. So that's the situation. Oh, and I don't want to say always, because that's horrible to say always, but a lot of times the initial reaction is not where the market ends up going. For example, I always see this, right? At 2 o'clock, when the announcement comes out, the market will take off in one direction, right? And people start buying or selling based on that. But usually what happens is the market kind of reverts based on what he's going to say in that press conference. So don't get over the tips of your skis with the initial reaction. If anything, what I normally try to do is fade that first reaction. So if the market goes up like, a lot off of the 2 o'clock announcement, I usually will buy something like SQQQ, right? So that when the market kind of comes back a little bit once the press conference starts, that's usually a profitable trade. Again, usually, not 100% of the time, and vice versa if the market sells off. All right. So I wanted to get that out of the way. But yes, 4,600 is, just looking at the technicals, right, and understanding what the price action is telling you. If we move above, that'll be very bullish. If we move above 4,600. What about the Qs? And I've been putting this out on Twitter. Again, I'll call it Twitter for now, but you actually have an 80% rule going on in the Qs on the 1 hour chart, meaning we started the week below the value area. Now that we've made it in, you could see on the top left of my screen, it says bullish 80% rule. That means that there's an 80% chance that Qs goes from one side of the value area to the other. Again, it's not 100% chance, right? It's an 80%, it's a good chance, right? This is based on just market profile systems and using value areas in your trading, right? So when something starts either above or below the value area, there's an 80% chance that we go all the way through it. And then finally, IWM, again, I'm just looking at the short-term charts for now. IWM seems like it doesn't know what to do. It is right smack in the middle of the value area. And of course, the diamonds have been a bit stronger, but they kind of, the level to watch, obviously the diamonds have been really strong the last few weeks. Watch this 353.63 level. Right now, it is above value. It may give a little bit of a retest here, but it is stronger than the rest right now, based on that, based on what the volumes are telling you. The volume profiles are telling you, and the value areas are telling you. So of course, Google is up after hours, right? This is how sometimes this works. Microsoft is down a little bit, but again, they won't give out their guidance until the earnings call, and that could really move Microsoft one way or another. So I wanted to, so it kind of took me a minute there to go get through the price action and the indices. What were the themes of the day? Well, take a look at the sectors. What I kind of concentrate a lot of times is what the percentage changes from the open. So of course, the most important thing is the percentage over the day, but what areas were bought versus what areas were sold. And the steel names, I mean, this is pretty crazy. To me, at least anyway, to see SLX, which is the steel ETF, break out to multi-year highs. I mean, here it is, right? And, again, just something that probably people aren't expecting, right, is steel names breaking out. And again, the biggest holdings in this is Rio and Vale. Those are both 10% of this ETF, but Cliffs Resources, had good earnings today. And I like this because it's just above the 200-day moving average. It's not extended. Sure, it had a nice day today, but I went long Cliffs Resources, and I'll be long versus that 200-day moving average. Now, go to looking at some of the names in the US that are steel related. STLD already reported earnings. They weren't that great, but I would watch to see if this can get above 106.60. That's one of my favorite names within the group. Nucor also had a pretty good day, right? And then if you look at some of these other metal names, I've been long CMC in one of my portfolios for a while. This name has been very strong. Another one too is ATI, right? And then if we go over to aluminum and steel, now this name is going to report earnings tomorrow, right? But this is Reliance Steel and Aluminum. This name is something that I've talked about like weeks ago. And look at the move in this thing, right? Again, not a very popular name. So again, I try to cover, some things and some areas in my end of day video that are just telling you some other things, right? Everybody gets hooked on some of the bigger names, but I like to look to see what names are actually breaking out. Another group that was pretty strong today was materials. This is the XLB ETF, B as in boy. This had a really nice move today too, right? So ultimately, I think this goes up to like, could get up to 87 and then maybe 89. I have been long one of these names because we saw call activity. I did take profits in this today because my upside target before it reports earnings, which it will next week, has been taken out. Now it could of course climb above there, but this is Air Products and Chemicals. The other name that I look at in this group is LIN, which has actually been a beast, right? This is Lind, right? And this also is going to report earnings. This one is later in the week. But again, just showing you where that there's some really interesting strength going on. There's been a lot of calls that have been going up in Alcoa, which has been in a downtrend. If you're not in this one, right, of course, it was up nicely today, up over 5%. But really, if you're looking for like a channel break and a breakout of the value area, I would look for 35.78. All right. So again, that name has seen a lot of option activity. All right. So that's really one of the biggest things that I've seen. And then, of course, areas that kind of pulled back over the last week, your home builders, right? Your semiconductors, right? And obviously growth names, right? So the home builders, remember, kind of went down pretty decently. This was after DHI reported and had a reversal. Well, look at DHI come back. Right. Really nice after this like ugly looking candle that day. Right. And it did hold the 20-day moving average. So again, some sellers there, this group has gone up a lot. So it doesn't surprise me that there's going to be some sellers. Look at what Pulte did today. Right. So again, Pulte reported earnings. Look at the move it made, up 6%. Right. So there's a lot of money to be made in things other than, the FANG stocks or this stupid thing that we hear, the Magnificent Seven. Magnificent, can't even say it right. Magnificent Seven names, right? There's a lot of things going on that are going up pretty decently after earnings. I mean, that's a really impressive candle for Pulte Homes. Now, of course, one of the growth names everybody looks at is Builder, right? This name had a nice day, and found support right at the 20-day moving average. The semiconductors, next group I'll talk about, right? Also finding support right where it needed to, right at the top of value for the month. That's 152.45 and had a nice bounce there. Of course, the beast, right? NVDA had a nice day. I did buy some of this yesterday morning, and I was able to take some off today. It was up 2.4%. Another name that I like out of this group is ACLS, which I did buy a little bit of. I did take some targets into strength this morning. So I don't like that close, but for now it's hanging above 176.82 and I'll remain long as it stays above there. Right. And Broadcom had a really nice today. A lot of call activity in this one. Back out to new highs for Broadcom. Very impressive stock. Now I know Texas Instruments is down a little bit in this group, but after hours on earnings, Texas Instruments seems to do that quite a bit on earnings. Next group. Well, I mean, this isn't a group, but looking at some growth names, Upstart had a huge day today. At one point was up 20%. Let's look at the weekly value areas, right? Because we could see, of course, that this name has been breaking higher. And again, it's going to have earnings in about a week and a half. Right. So this has made a big move out of this and is trying to basically fill this gap up to 72 on the weekly chart. Note also that this has made its way into the value area. I didn't think that this was going to happen, honestly. This was back at 44.65, major resistance there, closed here, but has managed to continue on. So, I would say that's probably the stock of the day. But also, the software names also had a good day. You could look at the where is this thing in here? I'm just looking for the IGV ETF. Was up 0.75%, and that and it gained over the trading session. It started down and actually gained. A couple of names that I'm watching in here. PCOR, right? This is a smaller cap software name, but I've seen a lot of broker analyst raises over the last couple weeks. Again, keep in mind, this is another one. Don't know what it's going to do on earnings. That's next week, right? That's the theme. There's so many of these names that are going to report earnings. So I could go through, a few more of those. I won't for now. Just a couple other names that I'm watching too is ELF, right? This is, the leader in beauty. Also held that top of value and is now trying to get above those short-term moving averages, right? Here's what our watch list looks like. again, this is kind of how we set this up for Tribeca Trade Group members. You could see that I took ACLS, I took CLF, but it gives me a sense every day of what names are changing. Plus we have triggers, right? Names that are moving above that a particular value area that I'm interested in, right? So that's kind of how we set things up. And it allows, traders to kind of understand where there's significant levels for things to get above. PBF right now is the best performer on this group. That's how we start out the week. And of course, I add to names as we go along. Guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.